In those years when I had been constantly pursuing my uncle, Samuel Whitman, he tried his best to avoid me. It was not until shortly before my death that I learned he was an immortal being who could live for 1,000 years. When I died in despair in the fire, he was holding a grand wedding with his beloved. After being reborn, I treated Samuel with great respect everywhere. I restrained my feelings and even took the initiative to match him with the person who was said to be his beloved. However, Samuel seemed possessed. This time, he became the one who pestered me relentlessly. He asked, "Why are you avoiding me?" When the fire completely engulfed me, I despairingly thought that if I had a chance to start over, I would never fall in love with Samuel Whitman again. Perhaps my obsession had been too deep. After my death, my soul hadn't dissipated immediately. Instead, I had been reluctant to leave the mortal world, or rather, I hadn't wanted to leave Samuel. Chasing after Samuel had been my habit for more than 10 years. I coldly watched as Samuel married his longtime lover the day I died. When the two of them toasted hand in hand at the wedding, anyone who saw them would have praised them as a perfect match. But I was not one of them. I had thought I wouldn't feel anything after death. But seeing Samuel and Janet Hall smiling and chatting merrily, my heart still ached. When Samuel was handling my funeral, I followed right behind him. Samuel had been an immortal who could live for 1,000 years. More than 10 years passed, and Samuel's face remained the same as ever. However, when he looked at my tombstone indifferently, it was as if he was looking at a stranger. I finally realized that Samuel and I were destined to be strangers. Before my soul wholly dissipated, I made a wish that I would never meet Samuel again. However, things hadn't gone as I wished. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes again, I was back at the time when the scholastic assessment test had just ended. Looking around the familiar room, I covered my face and couldn't stop crying. I had never thought that God really gave me a chance to start over. At this time, my relationship with Samuel hadn't been too bad yet. It was not long after I confessed my love to Samuel that our relationship deteriorated utterly. But this time, I didn't make the same mistake again. "Cynthia." Samuel's voice sounded, and I instinctively took 2 steps back. I asked, "What's the matter, Uncle Samuel?" Samuel opened the door of my room, and there seemed to be complex emotions in his eyes that I couldn't understand. "What's the matter, Uncle Samuel?" I felt creepy being stared at by Samuel's complicated eyes. Could he tell that I was reborn? No, that was impossible. Samuel seemed to wake up from a dream. He touched his nose a little awkwardly. "It's time for dinner, Cynthia." I replied, "Oh, I see. I will go right away." The meal was eerily quiet. In my past life, I had always been worried about losing things. When Samuel first adopted me, I was afraid of being abandoned by him, so I always unconsciously tried to please him. Later, after I fell in love with Samuel, I wanted to stick to him and be by his side all the time. For this reason, I got a lot of disgust from Samuel. Keeping a distance from Samuel like that was the first time in both my past and present lives. Samuel said, "Cynthia." My hand holding the fork tightened instinctively. "Uncle Samuel, you taught me that we shouldn't talk while eating." Samuel smiled, just like the first time I saw him in my past life. At that time, a handsome and elegant young man gently reached out his hand to me and asked if I would like to go home with him. "Cynthia, why are you so distant from me now?" There seemed to be a bit of pain in Samuel's eyes. I almost thought I was hallucinating. In my past life, Samuel had hated it the most when I interfered in his life under the pretext of being family. Why was he showing this attitude now? I said, "I'm not." Samuel reached out and touched my head. "Cynthia, no matter what, I will always be with you and always by your side." I lowered my head, and tears fell uncontrollably. Samuel was such a big liar. I would never believe a word Samuel said again. I keenly sensed that Samuel's attitude towards me seemed to have changed. In my past life, Samuel always kept a distance from me and lectured me in the manner of an elder. But now, something was off about Samuel. However, before I could figure it out, an unexpected guest arrived at our house. I silently poured coffee for Janet, not wanting to get too involved with her. "Uncle Samuel is having a meeting in the study. Ms. Hall, please wait for a while." Janet sized me up and down, and her gaze made me feel highly uncomfortable. She said, "Cynthia, the scholastic assessment test is over, right? You're an adult now. You should keep a distance from your uncle. By the way, which university are you planning to apply to?" I'll take care of such matters for Cynthia. It's none of an outsider's concern, said Samuel with a sullen face and an unfriendly tone. Janet's expression immediately turned unpleasant. She forced a smile and said, Samuel, how could I be an outsider? Anyway, I'm her elder. I stood aside, remaining silent. Logically speaking, Samuel shouldn't have been so cold towards Janet. At this time in my past life, Samuel and Janet had even reached the stage of discussing the details of their wedding. I stole a glance at Samuel, only to meet his eyes directly. Cynthia has only me as her elder, Samuel said in a calm voice. I'll take care of her affairs for a lifetime. Janet's expression froze, and she gave me a fierce glare. Of course. I bit my lip, feeling awkward in this strange atmosphere. I said, Uncle Samuel, Ms. Hall is right. I'm already an adult, but you still haven't gotten married. Ms. Hall is very nice. You too. My voice grew lower because the way I was staring at me was as if he would devour me. I was very confused. Sensing that the atmosphere was weird, Janet left quickly, leaving only me and Samuel in the living room. I rubbed my fingers, trying to keep my tone calm. Uncle Samuel, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to my room. Samuel nodded. Then, as if he had thought of something, he asked, Cynthia, do you really want me to get married? I stopped in my tracks. Of course, I didn't want Samuel to get married. But did my opinion matter? I said helplessly, of course. Uncle Samuel, you've taken care of me for so long. I want you to be happy. The next second, Samuel's breath came from above my head, instantly enveloping me. Is this your true feeling? Samuel grabbed my wrist and rubbed it, forcing me to look up and meet his gaze. Cynthia, tell me.